Hi everyone. So this is not our normal time, so odds are it's going to take a few minutes for people to catch up and see what's going on here. We need to make sure we get everything set up properly. It's kind of interesting. Let's see what it's doing here. Mute that. It's always something new over here, I'll tell you. Switch that. No, we don't really want that. We want something small. We want something that fits the screen, right? Hi there, Straw Egg Productions. Hi, Fishing Outdoors. Hi, Rick. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know. It's super late. Well, hey, I'm nocturnal. So you guys are catching up with me during my normal business hours, so to speak. Business usually when I'm working. But today I had a lot to do. Thank you for letting me know that the sound is working. This chat box is not cooperating for me. Let's see if I can do something. Pop out chat. That should help. So I can see you guys. Yes, YouTube notified you on time. I literally just brought this up on the screen. So I'm hoping we aren't dealing with any kind of lag. I tried to make sure everything was turned off. Oh no, I just got to say hi to someone and they're leaving. They have to sleep. It's only like 9:45. What are you, raising chickens? I mean, what? What's going on for you? All right, listen, before we get too far in, it's time for me to open some more booze because it wasn't all drunk today and I need to have more. This stuff might, expire eventually, but not if it's in my belly. So we're going to open this up right now. And then we'll talk about the video. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. I was very excited for my tank. Lately, it has just been stunningly beautiful, which makes me very, very happy. I have been focused on cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. All right, here we go. Let's try not to make a big mess in my living room. Oh. Here we go. Yes, I did not explode everywhere. And I didn't make a mess all over the place. How nice is that? So I got this whole bottle for myself. Everyone's gone. We actually had a party earlier this evening. Put that right there. Do not tumble. So this is to 5 years, and I'm hoping for 5 more. And I really enjoy these live streams with you guys. And when I miss one, it actually makes me feel bad that I'm not getting one out when I'm supposed to. So today, my club had what's called the local fish store bus tour. And we hire a bus, a charter driver. He drives from here to there to everywhere and takes us to different stores. And then from there, we shop. We spend a bunch of money. We help the local economy. And then we all come home and we put our new livestock in our tanks. So that was part of my day today. I had something I had to do this morning that absolutely had to be done. Then I joined the group. And while we were in the bus, I had people saying, ding, Mark, look what's on my phone. It was a notification saying that the video rolled out at 2 o'clock on the dot. I was super happy that that video did come out automatically. I've never scheduled it before. I need to thank Devin from Reef Dudes for being kind enough to tell me how to do that because, and even then I didn't know if I did it right. And I was really glad that it worked as planned because I wanted you to get it during the time you expected a stream to appear. So I thought if the video rolls out right then, well, at least you'll have something to watch and you won't wonder what's going on, where's Mark? And I was out with my friends, my club members, for a few hours shopping. And then this evening, just about 20 minutes ago, I uploaded another video to Facebook, and that's the LFS bus tour. So that video is available now that you can watch later tonight if you like. It's about 12 minutes long, and it shows the inside of some of those stores. Now, I want to kind of talk about the tank itself, obviously, and I want to make sure I keep up with everyone in the chat. So, Andrew, you might be late, but I'm late too. This stream was supposed to happen at 2 o'clock on Saturday, and it's 9:49 at night, so I think we're late together, and that's okay. Kyle, I think a late night live stream is a good thing, right? It won't be a normal thing. I usually have things I must do, or I'm relaxing because it's Saturday night. But I wanted to be sure to get on here today and catch up with you guys after I got everything else done. Anthony Murphy says, I just watched your video. I'm so jealous. I'm only a year in and figuring it all out thanks to you and others. Yeah, all the YouTube personalities that are sharing information that helps you be successful with your tank, that's huge. We used to rely only on books, and we'd have these books that we would read, and then we would go to forums and we would discuss and debate and ask questions, but that was our guidance. And that has shifted away from the books and into the videos. And it's one of the reasons why I'm doing videos, because my website has everything you need to know on it. And you know, a lot of people, oh, let me see if I can jump back into that window so I can put this on your screen. So that's my website, melevsreef.com. And I have people ask me, what do you do for a living? I'm like, this is what I do for a living. I do, how do I point to that? Melevsreef, it's over there. Anyway, that is my website. I sell things from it. I build things out of acrylic. I sell Ecotech products. I sell Blue Life products. I sell Benepets, the Reef food. I mean, I sell a whole bunch of different products from my website. And of course, the acrylic things that I fabricate for my customers. Then, pull this off the screen. And the reason for this website specifically was education, to teach people how to do things with their tank. And my goal was to set up a nice website that put all the information in a single article that you could just read your way through, learn what I recommend, and then you could decide for yourself if you wanted to do it. You could say, yeah, that makes total sense. I'm going to copy Mark. Or you could say, no, I'm not really happy with that. And what I want you to do instead is I want you to, you know, go away, and I'm going to go read this from some other person. So anyway, reading was the way to get information out. And now we're doing videos. Okay, somehow I lost my chat box. Let me see if I can get that back. Window, comments and reactions. That's what I wanted. Aw, this is awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the $5 super chat. You know, those super chats, that's kind of new to me. I'm not even really sure what to do with it. But no, thank you. I really do appreciate that. So, you know, one of the things that excites me most about my reef is that it's just glowing. And so like today, when I brought everyone over, the first thing I did was disable the metal halides so that only the XHOs were on. And that gave everyone that blue hue that I see first thing in the morning when I quote unquote get up. And it also allowed me to show them what the tank looks like before I go to sleep. Because I get that beautiful glow for a couple of hours in the morning, I call my morning, and also at night. Like right now, my tank is mostly glowing. I have one metal halide on because it was actually off all day, so I'm hitting that anemone with a bunch of light to make sure that it's happy and doesn't try to do anything crazy. But I wanted to show them that because whenever people come to my house to see the tank, what they end up seeing is, you know, under what I call daylight lighting, or they see one light is off and two lights are on, and I wanted it to be that glow, that craziness that I always tell you guys about, but you can't really see on camera. It just never looks as good as it does in person. And with my glass sparkling clean and the water crystal clear, I mean, it was the perfect view. And so everyone came over. An entire bus pulled up in front of my house, which is kind of funny. Everyone kept saying, what do your neighbors think? I'm like, I don't care what they think. And they all came inside, and the room was full of people. I mean, I shoved everything out of the way, and we filled up with about, I'd say 35 people were in my living room. And I joked, I said, come on, everyone cram in there. We can get 50 more people in here. And then we broke open a couple of bottles, and everyone had a sip of champagne. We celebrated the 5 years, and then everyone got back on the bus, including me. You know, if I drink a lot of this live stream should get really interesting. Okay, let me see what I have missed in these conversations. I said I would keep up with the chat, and I see, oh my God, there's so many comments. All right, I'm gonna start at the top and work my way down. Give me a second. Sagui is watching from the cold, muddy campground? Wow, that's a... Shouldn't you be like looking up at the stars or seeing something beautiful or enjoying a campfire? Here's a quick question that I see. I'm going to put these on the screen as I come across them. RODI before I get my tank. That would be getting an RODI system before you get an aquarium. Yeah, why not? You could use it to make drinking water right now. and then you'll have something set up to make pure water in your house when you're ready to start setting up your aquarium. Troy is here from Austria, and it's only 2 in the afternoon for him, so we've got like 6-8 hours that we can fill. Let's see. By the way, if there's any questions about the anniversary video, please ask them in this chat, because I want to answer those. That was kind of the reason for this live stream tonight. That's why I joked, did you do your homework? Let's see. Matthew Green made a funny comment here. I'm going to bring it up here. I thought we left you at Glass Aquatics. Yes, you did. You left me there. I took my Uber and I came home. So that was kind of fun. You know, there's big buses in front of my house with the engine rumbling, and everyone got back on board. I grabbed my microphone and my iPhone to film with, and I jumped on the bus too. I just abandoned my house. And then I had no way to get back here, so I took an Uber. It worked out fine. I mean, that's so awesome that we have Ubers these days. I really enjoyed that. Here is an interesting comment. Excuse me. I can't believe it's been 5 years already. You know, I wanted it to be more. I actually wanted it to be the true amount of years, because when I set up this tank, I set it up in February of 2011. And here we are, we're only at 5 years, when it should have been from the date I put the livestock in there in February. But after that 13 months, when the tank sprung a leak, and then I had to take everything out, and whatever died, and I moved everything into a temporary tank. Then I had to turn around and I had to wait for the new tank to show up, and 18 months went by until everything got resituated. And today, November 10th, 2013, all the livestock went into this glass box. And that is what's been in my tank ever since. Okay. Hey, here's a good question. Did you get anything for your reef? I actually did. So I got an acan, a really pretty, colorful Lord Howensis, and I put it through a dip of Revive, and it is now in the top of my reef where it belongs for right now. I hope it's still there in the morning. If not, it'll have fallen down. But I put it somewhere I could reach, and that will get some food. And then I got 2 walking dendrophilias, which they're called walking dendros. And what it is this little tiny coral about the size of an olive. And on the bottom of it, and you'll see pictures of this later because I'm going to put it well, I'll put it somewhere. It'll probably be on Facebook. I know this is YouTube. It'll probably be on Facebook or my Instagram. And you'll see a little hole in the bottom of the coral, and that's where a worm lives. And the worm comes out of the coral, stretches across, grabs on the substrate, looks for food, bites down, and pulls the coral over to himself. And then he goes out and he pulls the coral. And so you basically have what looks like an elegance coral that's walking across your sand bed very, very slowly. It just seems to keep moving. And you're like, I never saw that happen. It's very sneaky and it's fun. And while I was at Glass Aquatics, they had a whole bunch of them. And if you remember, I bought one for Dwayne a year ago. And I decided that I wanted to get one for myself. And they had several, so I got 2. Let's see. Okay, I'm not even going to put that on the screen, but that's funny. Mad River Reefs, you're funny. Let's see. I believe Andrew may have just seen our video that I put up about the LFS bus tour. If not, you saw the comments and us talking about it. But that video is on Facebook right now on the melevsreef page. So, do I have a link for that? All these links look wrong. I am going to have to do that really quick. Let's see if I can type one out really fast. I say fast, it's such a lie. Facebook.com/melevsreef. And then how do I get this on my screen where I want it? Add. And now, there you go. So if you go to this page on Facebook, I'll put it right down there so it's not covering my face every time it pops up, then you will be able to actually see the videos that I release. You'll see the things I share, the pictures, the stories, the articles. One of my friends who runs a fish store up in, I think it's Michigan, she just posted some beautiful footage from a dive that she went on, and I saw it on her page, and I shared it to the melevsreef page so everyone can see it instead of just her friends. So If you're not following this page, you really should. Hide that again because you don't need it on your screen forever. Let's see. Okay, here's a good question. I saw in your last video you have an auto feeder. Are you concerned? I have to move this down, sorry. Everything's on my screen, there's not enough room. Are you concerned of failure where it could dump all the food in your tank at once? Well, you know, actually that's happened a couple of times. One time, Spock pulled the entire thing into the tank. All the food was in the tank. Matter of fact, the auto feeder was still spinning as I watched it sink to the bottom. And I cleaned it out, and there was food everywhere. And the phosphates shot up, and I used Phosphate RX, and I knocked it out. So basically what I mean is I used Phosphate RX every single day, every other day for about 2 weeks. And because my phosphate level on the tank was 3.0. 3.0! And what I did was I just dosed Phosphate RX, and it brought it down, and then 2 days later I dosed again, and I dosed it again, and I dosed it again, and finally it was down and stayed down. I got it all out of the system. So am I concerned? Nah, it happens. Sometimes the Eheim auto feeders will just continuously spin and dump the entire drum out. I think any auto feeder could at some point fail and cause that kind of damage. Okay. I'm sure this is meant for me. It says Mike, but I think it's to me. Anyway, I love sharing reef tanks, and what's important to me is sharing information that will educate you and give you information to consider, things to think about, you know, things that caught my eye. I think that's so much better. Matter of fact, any YouTubers that are watching this, I'm not down on anyone. I'm not putting them down. I'm just suggesting that any person that's doing a video that's sharing something should always include information that will help the viewer learn one new thing. And while I totally get the desire to just show something and put music over it and, you know, wash your hands of it and just release it, and there's things out there that go very viral when you do just that, it's when you share something that you're passionate about, when you share something that changed your life, when you share something that made things easier, that is the exact type of information I think most people appreciate the most. And if you are just releasing video of the fish going back and forth or putting food in the tank, you know, it's just not as interesting to me. And you know, whatever. I mean, I guess there's times where that's all you want to see. But for me, I need more, and I try to always provide information to help people. David N, yes, stop by soon. Come get some filters. That would be great. Let's see. Okay, this is a good question. Anthony, you asked if there's a clip that will fit the Samsung phones. I actually found that out today. I took the Coral View lens, and I tried it on a couple different iPhones, and I also tried it on a Android phone, which I'm pretty sure is a Samsung, and we discovered that the case made it not line up, but when you pulled the case off the phone, the camera clip went completely around it and centered exactly on the lens. It worked out just fine. So that lens does fit a phone where the camera is dead center, like right there in this spot, versus ours, which is over here now. And there's some where it's just at the top. It's just a little circle. That's fine. So it works on this type of camera. It works on, you know, just a single, and it works on the one that's in the middle. But if it's way down low, you might need to like pull the case off, like I said, to slide the clip all the way down. And that Coral Lens viewer is on my website. Shameless plug. Right there. Go to that website. Buy it right now. Okay. What's your favorite food for clownfish? You know, to be honest, my favorite food is just Rod's food. I use that in my, when I offer my tank food. I'm checking the clock because I got food thawing that I got to feed my tank soon. And I use Rod's food every single night. And I like both the original flavor and I like the herbivore flavor. There's several choices, actually. But flake food, pellet food, mysis, brine shrimp, I mean, they'll eat anything you put in front of them. It's very unusual for a clownfish to reject food. They're pretty hardy. They pretty much eat just about anything. Flake food is super simple, and it comes in, you know, Formula 1 and Formula 2, which should have gonna be omnivore and herbivore, both flavors. Omnivore would be better for clownfish, I believe. And I've seen them eat other stuff. I've seen them eat the Reef Nutrition liquid foods, by like arthropods. I've seen them bite into not Oyster Feast. What is that one they have? They have one that, man, I can't remember. I haven't bought it in so long, but it looks like a bunch of, I want to say brine shrimp in solution, and you just squirt it in and they devour it. So I would say foods that have a little bit of chunk to them would be good for clownfish. And keep in mind too that the quality of the food you use, I'm not just suggesting any kind of food, but the quality of food that you use actually can affect the coloration of your fish. So if you have really cheap food, your fish might look kind of pale and drab. And the ones that include some of the really good ingredients, and another food that a lot of people are popular with is Larry's Reef Frenzy. And that food too has all kinds of the benefits and the vitamins and the additives that make our fish really vivid and happy and thick and healthy, which is what we want. Okay. One of my neighbors definitely did come out. A couple of them came outside, and they're wondering what was going on when that bus was in front. But you know what? I've had all kinds of stuff in front of my house. I've had giant trucks delivering aquariums. I've had forklifts rolling up down my driveway. I've received deliveries from UPS and FedEx on pallets. So for me to have a bus pull up in front, that's not really that unusual. Freeman's Aquatics. I like what you said, sir, so I'm going to put it on the screen. It's a blessing for me to learn the best visually and no BS. So yeah, I try to always share what has worked for me. I try to be positive. I try not to be negative. I'm currently trying out some products and I'm not really in love with them. And part of that's a personal bias. I'm used to certain things, and trying something new is not exactly my favorite thing in the world to do. But I also tend to look at every single thing I pick up that I try out as a hobbyist. And I know I'm more than a hobbyist. I know it, but at the same time, I feel like a hobbyist. And so I will take out a test kit and I'll open it up, and then I will, like I said, personal bias. I'll open it up and I'll say, oh, it's not a glass vial. They use plastic. In my brain, it's thinking cheap because I'm spoiled now with nicer things. Doesn't mean it's wrong. And it doesn't mean that I should put it down either. Like I said, I'm trying to be positive in product reviews or product assessments. So I try to keep things, like I said, honest. Let's see. Yes, you can definitely ask me candied questions. I'm sure you meant candid. But candy I love. So candied questions, that would be great. Go ahead and ask me your stuff, and I will spill my secret sauce. Boy, that sounded really dirty. Let's get that off the screen. Ramy, I hear you're 6 years old, and I am so glad that you love watching my channel with your parents. And keep up the good work, because one day you're going to have your own reef tank, and you'll have your own YouTube channel, and you'll be sharing it with the world, and you'll be showcasing what a beautiful reef you were able to grow. Reef Eco asks, will you be having any Black Friday sales on your website? I usually don't, and I don't know. I'm not super motivated to do that kind of stuff. Everyone's doing it, and I'm kind of, for example, I've tried in the past. I've done it. I would put my RODI system on sale. And it was on sale from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Cyber Monday. It was on sale the whole time. And then Tuesday, people were buying RODI systems at regular price. And I thought, well, you had 4 days to get it cheaper. And so it kind of seemed pointless. Maybe it's because everyone's so busy shopping on the big sites and not on mine that they overlook it. But I'm not really so motivated. Every dollar counts. I've been mentioning this to you guys. Oh, man, let me catch you up on that really quick. So today is the 10th. I believe I have an appointment on the 17th or 19th to meet with the oral surgeon, where he's going to take a look and make sure everything's healthy, that the post is perfectly ready for the dentist. And I leave his chair, go straight to the dentist, who is then going to take a casting of my mouth, and then they'll design a tooth that will go into that spot, and it'll be glued or cemented to the post. So anyway, the point of this update is to tell you that I have earned and paid enough for one. Of the $10,000, we collectively, through your business, through the things you've been buying from me and me filling orders and taking care of customers, I've earned $5,000 of it, which is great. And so I still have to keep mentioning that buying things from my website does help pay the oral surgeon. That's a legit thing. The good thing is I just have to pay this dentist for what she's going to do. And then the next treatment is where they're going to drill into this bone that's been healing for weeks. And they're going to put a post in there. And that's sometime in, I'd say, mid-December. And that's when I have to come up with $4,000 all at once. And then I believe in February is when I go to the dentist for another casting to do the tooth on this side. And that's the other 1,000. So anyway, I needed 10. We have reached pretty much about 5. So thank you for all your help. If you're watching this video and you were motivated to buy something, I really appreciate it. Because like I said earlier, I didn't want to do a GoFundMe and just say, please give me money. That was not my goal. I was just like, just please buy things for me. And that way my business is booming and I can pay this stupid stuff off and have a couple teeth in my head that lets me chew a lot easier. And let me tell you guys this. If you are not brushing and flossing, I highly recommend it. Because, oh man, without the molars in the back that you need, I have bit my lip so many times trying to eat over the last few weeks. Oh man, it has just been annoying. And it's like you think you're finally knowing how to eat, and then it's like chomp, and like, oh my god, I just bit my lip again. So anyway, take care of your teeth. Don't put yourself where I'm at. Does a copperband butterfly eat any LPS? I have not seen mine do any damage. She tends to eat Mahanos and Aptasia and loves the bloodworms and loves PE mysis. And what else do I put in there? That PE mysis and the bloodworms are the two I feel are most important for that fish. And so I always put some of that in the cup along with all the other foods. And I watch and I make sure that she's going in there and going after it aggressively. And because that's a very thin fish and it can get thin really, really fast. I have not seen it bother any LPS. I mean, it hunts everywhere. It's always looking for food. And I saw it kind of hit a spot next to a chalice. And a chalice is an LPS, but I think it was getting a worm underneath. And I also watch it scour the sand bed. It is always looking. If I had spaghetti worms in my reef, they'd be gone. And there are a lot of spaghetti worms in my anemone cube. And I actually like them. I think they're beautiful. So. Putting this question here, how long has it been from the rebuild with your friend? Oh, when we took the tank down, when we took all the big corals out, that was September 16th of 2017, when we pulled out the massive colonies. And so it's been, what, a year and a month and a half? About 14 months? And that's where we are now. And a lot of corals were little frags he gave me that we planted that day before he flew home back to Seattle. And they're beautiful. I mean, I have a coral in there right now that I only recently took a picture of, and I shared this on Instagram. I finally understood why it's called a quad color. Because, most people know what a tricolor acropora is, but a quad? And he kept saying, it's a quad, it's a quad. And so I just said, okay. Who am I to argue? Well, it's doing really well. And when I was looking down from above through my little floating box and taking pictures, I said, whoa! There is a fourth color in there. It's like a baby blue in the core of the coral. So that was really cool. And by the way, he told me through the Club melevsreef group, which that is my group that I have on Facebook that is very peaceful and you're invited. And the link to that is right here. Move this down. I always put it on my face. So he said they're calling it Seattle's Dream. Some name like that. Seattle's Dream Catcher. I don't know. Seattle's Dream Acro. But I can't remember the exact name. Quad color is a lot easier to remember. And mine's doing really, really well. So I'm very happy about that. Okay, we'll hide that. Okay, so that takes care of that. Here's a good question. How many Nacerius snails for a 75-gallon aquarium? I would say 10 to 15. And if you can get the super tongue in Necerius, even better. And I answered that. I love the beginning of your video. Without the filter on it, your tank had a little blue look to it, but it wasn't much. Things did look crisp without looking oversaturated blue LEDs. And you know what? When my XHOs are turned off and my metal halides are on, kind of works, but I'm super particular what it looks like on video, and I try to get it to look good. And I look for errors. I look for what's going wrong. I'm using the filters. I really do embrace them. I constantly, every time I take out my phone, if I'm getting near the tank, I put the clip on the phone and take the pictures and video. Ooh, here's a great question. What coral has been the most challenging in the last 5 years? The most challenging. Let me have a drink and let me think. I would say challenging. Nothing. Nothing is like hard to grow. There's nothing that I'm like, oh, you know, if I can only conquer this. I mean, there's certain things that don't do well in my tank. Recordia is one of them. I have a little tiny Recordia in my tank, and it is just getting smaller and smaller. I've never had luck with Recordia. Is that a challenging coral? No. Should it be challenging for my reef? Not really. I don't even know why it's not happy, because I have phosphates and nitrates. Maybe it's the Copperband. Maybe it's the Copperband. That was my timer to remind me, feed the tank before the lights turn off. So, why don't I do that really quick? Can you guys hold on for like 90 seconds while I throw food in my tank? I will switch cameras here and do this. And that way maybe you can see something. I don't know, it'll probably look like a blue mess. Let's try switching. 2? No? This one? All right. Yeah, that looks terrible. Anyway, I'm going to go feed that tank, feed these tanks really quick, and then I will be right back. But I want to do it before the lights go out. Hands are all wet. Wow, that video that you guys are looking at is terrible. Come back here. That looked awful. I'm telling you, certain lighting and certain cameras, oh my God, they're terrible. All right, so here was another good question. Anyway, back to the challenging corals. You know, I mean, I'm not looking to buy corals that are difficult to take care of. There's certain corals you have to feed. Okay, so if you wanted Dendrophilia, if you wanted Tubastria, well, those are two that I'm familiar with. You got to feed them all the time, and if you don't, they die. So if you are good at feeding corals, you know, manually, and not just broadcast feeding and hoping they grab a meal, then, that's not really even a challenge. That's more like effort. Now, if I wanted to set up a non-photosynthetic tank, that entire tank has to be fed because it doesn't live off of light. That would be a challenge, and I have not tackled anything like that. Roy asks, would you ever go full LED? Man, I'm going to say never. But yeah, it's possible. What if I get stuck? What if I'm painted into a corner and there's no other choice but LED? Then yeah, I might. All right. I know I'm way behind on this chat, so I'm going to try to move along a little faster. Let's see. By the way, today I tried to use the clip on the iPhone under T5s, and wow, did it not want to filter out that light. I guess you need a totally different type of lens. Scrolling, scrolling. Wow, I'm only halfway down this chat. Here's a good question. Did your Mandarin decide to make an appearance on this 5th anniversary? I've not seen it in about 4 days. I don't know if it's alive. I've not seen it ever be sick, like it's ill. It's always fat. There's a problem with one of its fins, but it's been like that forever. And when I asked a lot of the people that I'm friends with in the industry, everyone said to leave that fish alone. So I left it alone. Here's a good question. Oh, that's so neat. You can just literally pick the next question and the last one gets erased. I love that. What test kits do you use? I use Elo's test kits, almost exclusively. As far as doing no water changes, is it necessary to dose iodine? Well, I have been dosing the iodine with my Prodibio doses that are over 15 days, and that's where I put in one of their the large Pro version vials. If you're wanting to dose iodine, water change or not, then I just recommend that you use 1 drop of Lugol solution, that's the one I recommend, per 50 gallons of water, and do not overdose that stuff because your fish will freak you out. Just stick to 1 drop per 50 gallons, and once a week. Okay. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. We are definitely here to help beginners and intermediates, and I have some experts that are watching the channel too. They're always looking for little tidbits, and I tend to share all kinds of little nuggets of truth, which helps everyone. Okay, let's see. I love this question. Any major problems that's occurred in the last 5 years? Wow. One of the biggest ones, and I don't remember the year, but we could check the YouTube videos and find the date, when I overdosed my tank with I had too much bacteria. And that was a disaster for everything green in the tank. And I was running biopellets at the time, and I also was dosing Prodibio, which they state categorically you cannot overdose Prodibio, and I found a way. I found a way to overdose Prodibio, and that caused a lot of, it didn't cause anything. It caused trouble in my tank. It didn't cause controversy, that's what I was thinking in my head. The massive amount of bacteria that took residence in my tank consumed everything green, and any green coral turned brown. So I knew the solution was stop putting Prodibio, stop running biopellets. And I removed both of those from the system. Well, I stopped running the biopellets. I couldn't remove Prodibio, it was in the water. And I knew if I wait 12 weeks, everything will go back to normal. And that's exactly what happened. 12 weeks later, the corals that were brown were green again. But you know what? There was some really cool transitions there. Certain corals had big color changes, and it was pretty fascinating to look at them. And like here I had this Montipora, like the circular Montipora, and the whole thing was green. All of a sudden, the whole thing is brown, and then all the new growth on the edge was green, but the center was brown, so you had that green leading edge. I actually have some great pictures of that, and it was really interesting for me to see that. And that was kind of a big disaster for that to happen in my tank, and I was glad that I was able to resolve it by basically stopping any additional problems and giving it time to just rebound. And of course, all the corals did. But it was weird not having anything green in my tank for a while, because green's one of those colors that really pops under blue lights. And then 2 years in a row, alkalinity on my tank shot up to 22 because of a bad controller. And, you know, the first time it happened, I was just annoyed. The second time it happened, I was so mad, I took that controller off my tank and threw it away. I didn't even give it to anyone because I didn't want the same thing to happen to them. And it just really aggravated me that the alkalinity got so high. But part of it's my fault because I wasn't testing weekly, which is one of the things I am telling everyone to do is every single Saturday, water test Saturday, test your tank. And I recommend that to everyone to reinforce my own beliefs, you know, that I need to do, you know, like I told everyone I got to do it. I got to get off my, out of my chair and I got to go over there and I got to test my water. So I do recommend that. And if you stay on top of it, then you won't let things like alkalinity shoot up to 22. Because, you know, that's what happens when you ignore things for 2 or 3 months in a row and then you finally pull out a test kit. But the tank itself was completely unaffected by this crazy high alk, which was fascinating to me. I didn't have precipitation. I didn't have LPS corals closed up. All I had was high alkalinity. And so I just brought it down gradually over a period of basically 3 months until it was back to the normal level. Yes, Mike, this is exactly why I do this channel. It's specifically for you. And I'm kidding, but I'm not. When I talk on this channel, I'm trying to target everyone. I don't want to leave anyone out. Just like when I do public speaking, I want to reach the children in the room, and I want to teach the teenagers, reach the teenagers. I want to teach those people in their 20s and 30s, and I want to get the people that have been experienced in the hobby for a long time. I want them to walk away feeling like they learned something new. Let's see. By the way, speaking of iodine, why would you even dose iodine? One of the main reasons that I think of iodine for a tank is specifically so shrimp can molt. And usually if shrimp are not molting, there's a lack of molting. That means, you know, removing the exoskeleton. If they aren't removing that from their bodies, it could be there's a lack of iodine in the water. Now, iodine is in the buckets of salt. So when you mix up new salt and do a water change, you have iodine. Since I'm not doing water changes, you would think I'd have no iodine in my tank. And to be honest, I still have not tested like an ICP test. In a way, I'm kind of terrified to hear the results. But at the same time, I'm kind of fascinated to hear what my numbers are going to be from not changing the water for so long. So I think I'll send off a test before I do my water change. I do have a water change planned in my very near future. I've got a whole bunch of salt to try out. At the same time, I want to clean out the sump. I want to suck out all the water out of there and get rid of all that crap in the bottom so it's a clean sump, you know, fresh and new for 2019. That's kind of an interesting question. Any tips for breeding rock flower anemones? And what I'm sure you mean is propagate, you know, to grow out more. You know, I'm kind of a naturalist when it comes to anemones. You know, I don't recommend, if you watch my other video about the bubble tips, I don't like the idea of cutting them up to hopefully create more. You know, I'm not a guy that slices and dices mushrooms hoping to make a lot of mushrooms. And odds are that is the way to propagate rock anemones. Usually I just go find a few I like and I buy them and I enjoy them for what they are. So if you were to, I don't know, maybe you can research it. Maybe someone's done some videos or some articles on this topic exactly, or specifically, but I don't have an answer for you on that one. That is a good question though. That's interesting. Want to talk about frozen foods because I saw some comments, you know, talking about watching the tank being fed. I did just feed frozen, and I did feed frozen in my video too. I think it was at the end of the video I released earlier today, because in the beginning I talked about the auto feeder, and that wasn't even pellets. That was a type of flake food called Reef chips. But at the end of the video, I showed me feeding all the tanks really quickly before the video wrapped up. Yes, that's a great question. So the first time I set up this tank was in 2011, as I told you. And the rock, I believe, was put right down on the glass, and I poured sand around it and built it up. And then after 13 months, the tank leaked, and it had to be hauled off. And then, you know, eventually I got a new tank. And I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I have this great idea. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make an acrylic support system that sits underneath the rocks. And there are going to be these fingers sticking up. And the rocks will fit on these fingers, and they'll stay there. And they'll never, ever move. And I don't care what goes through the sand bed. You know, if a cucumber digs it all up, if a powerhead blows all the sand away, I want the rock structure to stay on those fingers and not move. And that's exactly what's happened. It's been fantastic. But that day of installing that was a nightmare. It took forever because I had sheets of acrylic. I had my Rockwork kind of laid out on the floor in the orientation I liked, for the foundation rocks. And then I would look at the base, I have no examples. I have nothing handy. Just pretend this is a rock. And I looked for there's a nook right there, and then there's a flat spot here. So I'm going to have a post that goes underneath the flat spot, and I'm going to have a taller rod that goes up inside the nook. And each rock had 3 points to support it. So each rock is a tripod. And I did that throughout the entire base of my foundation of my reef. And then more rocks went on top, and I used a type of concrete mixture from Reef to bond that together. And then I added the sand bed and filled it all in. I have a full article about this on Reef Addicts, so after this video goes live, I will put a link to that in this video's description. By the way, when you guys watch my videos on YouTube, do you actually look at the description area? Because I try to always include links to related topics, related articles, as well as links to how to get to the Club Melevsreef and how to find me on Instagram and all that. Do you guys read the descriptions, or do you just watch the video and make a comment? I legitimately would like to know. I got a cute story here that you guys are going to like, and I haven't shared it in a long time, so maybe you haven't heard it. First, I need some more. I should have kept something nearby with ice to put this on, but you know what? It's still pretty cold. So I have a son who had his own aquarium in his room, and the aquarium had a couple of gold striped maroon clownfish, and it had some rock, and it had a skilter filter. And a skilter filter was this hang-on-back filter that had this thing inside of it that was supposed to be a skimmer. That's why it's called a skilter instead of a hang-on-back filter. Very noisy, kind of annoying. I even modified it to make it more efficient. Still kind of a pain in the butt. But for some reason, the skim mate in the collection cup was coming out, it was a glowing blue hue. I mean, it was so blue and vivid that I posted pictures on the forum. I said, what is this? Have you guys ever seen this color before? Because I've never seen this color come out of my skilter or any other type of skimmer on the market. And people thought, that's really weird. You should test your water and do this and that. And I couldn't figure it out. I mean, I spent some time thinking about it and looking at everything and testing the water. Nothing explained it. And then my son says, hey, I'm out of food. And so I went ahead and I bought him a new jar of Formula 1 pellet food. And suddenly the skim mate was super red. And that's when I put 2 and 2 together and realized that my son was throwing in so much pellet food. He just loved feeding that tank and feeding it, that it was changing the color of the liquid coming out of the skilter, which is hilarious. I mean, he went through an entire jar, I don't know. Let's just pretend he did it in a week. That should have lasted him 3 months. But I had to explain to him no more of that, and all of a sudden the skim mate was the right color. It was that normal tea color, so that was really funny. Do you ever make your own fish food? I used to. I'm too busy these days, and I totally love supporting my local fish store. So I always am getting Rod's food, and I also like to get Hikari frozen foods, like there's one called Spirulina brine shrimp, I believe, and then there is their mini mysis and the bloodworms, and everything else is Rod's food. I'm using Original Blend, and I'm using the krill package, and I use the fish eggs. And I put all those different things in a little bowl every single night and melt it with some salt water for about 10 minutes or so till it's all dispersed. And then I can just pour it into my tanks like you see in the videos. But I stopped making my own. I mean, it was fine. Yeah, we're saving money, but at the same time, I kind of like the convenience of just going to the store, finding something I like, buying it, and feeding my babies. This is a weird question. Do you know the load capacity of your driveway? Is it reinforced in any way? Well, you know what? It holds parked cars, I can tell you that. I have had a forklift go up and down it. Nothing weird happened. I mean, the concrete of my driveway is crumbling. It's old. This house is old. And I want to replace it with a new one, but even if they replace it with a new one, it would just be whatever a normal driveway is. I don't think it would be anything incredible like what they make a freeway out of that has to last, 50 years. So, yeah, it's probably 3 inches. That'd be my guess. How? Why? Why are you asking? Now I'm curious. Now I have a weird question. Why are you asking? Let's see. Congratulations on catching your wrasse. So what did you do with it? I do not know the answer to this question, but I can tell you that I ran a Brightwell brick in my sump for 8 months, and it did not break down or collapse or dissolve or anything. It just was a brick. I could take my fingernail and push into it, and there was like a hint of a little notch, but it didn't do anything, but that's as far as I know. There was a problem a long time ago where a lot of people were unhappy, and they replaced them all. But everyone keeps talking about what happened back then. Ooh, another good question. How are you liking the Comore doser? Actually, I'm loving it, and it's super quiet. It just does its job. I have been testing my alkalinity daily instead of weekly because I wanted to make sure everything was on the up and up, because I kind of had a weird thing happen a few weeks ago where it wasn't quite doing what I wanted, and I had to troubleshoot. And right now, the last test I did was a day ago, and my alkalinity was around 9 to 9.5. It was like 9.25. So I've got it dosing. It was dosing at 50 milliliters per minute, and I ramped it up to 60. So that little wheel in the front is spinning pretty quick, which you saw in the video. And yes, the calcium reactor video is coming up because I finally got in the pH controller that I wanted to feature, but they changed its look, its style, which kind of makes me uncomfortable because I'm used to one thing. I'm sure it does exactly what I need, but anyway, yes, that's coming up. So here's what's coming up. I did all these videos I wanted to get out. The next video to come out is Tammy's Reef. I've had people ask me about it. One person called me selfish because I haven't shared it yet, which, that's just funny. I mean, seriously, that's funny. So anyway, this guy is going to be stop being selfish. He's going to release Tammy's video this week, and then I think the calcium reactor video will be next week. All right. All right, here we go. This is a good one. I got out of the hobby a while back because it got too expensive, but I still watch you every time you upload. Thank you very much for doing that. And listen, this hobby is expensive. And one of the videos that's coming up for my tank, like I said at the end of the video that you watched today, I was ambitious. I had things I wanted to include in the big 5-year anniversary and ran out of time. I mean, literally, you guys got 23 minutes and I didn't even get to touch the things I want to do. So that's coming up in the near future. Those are a couple of cool things I want to do that I think will be very interesting. But the cost involved in a tank comes down to what you're spending your money on. For example, if you don't buy any more fish or any more corals, you're saving money. It's when you keep going and getting more livestock, especially if you're trying to buy name brand stuff. If you're trying to buy the pricey, expensive coral du jour, and then you're thinking, oh yeah, but it's going to grow and I'm going to frag it and I'm going to get my money back. This hobby pays for itself. Stop telling yourself that. The hobby does not pay for itself. I have a job that pays my bills, and I have a hobby that I adore. Now, yes, granted, my hobby has become my business, but at the same time, I'm selling products and I'm building things out of acrylic. I'm not selling things out of my reef. Matter of fact, I hate to reach in the reef and break anything off, but I have to because they're killing each other. So there'll be some fragging very soon. But even then, I tend to give and trade rather than sell. So yes, the hobby is expensive. The cost of electricity, the cost of making water or buying water, and the cost of buying more fish food and replacing test kits, that's kind of it. And then if some kind of equipment breaks. So I always try to buy things when the opportunity arises, if there's something on sale, or if someone's getting out of the hobby. That's one of the things you're going to see in my calcium reactor video is a component that someone sold, used, and I was like, dude, give it to me, I'll take it. It's my backup for the one I have now, which I've to this day never had to use. And I'm going to use it in that video, and then it'll be used on the frag system. But if you can save money by buying used stuff, from someone that's leaving the hobby for whatever reason, that's a great, great choice to help you save some money. It's so funny. The more I scroll down, the more the chat is still waiting for me. There's always more. You guys never stop. Let's see. Frank the Tank asks, where do you buy your bloodworms? I go to Frank's Tanks. I told him what I wanted, and he brings them in. And then when I go in there and there's none, I say, Frank, I need bloodworms. And he says, okay, they'll be here tomorrow, or they'll be here in 2 days, or next Tuesday. And then I show up, and I buy 2 or 3 packs at a time. And now he actually has them in stock at all times, because he knows I'm going to come back, and I'm going to ask for them. Because I put 1 cube in the bowl of fish food every single night for the Copperband. Okay, here's a good one. I can't get my Copperband butterfly to eat. I've literally fed him mysis, bloodworms, flake, brine, along with NLS pellets. Nothing seems to interest him. That's terrifying. If your Copperband won't eat anything, that Copperband may not live. And Copperbands are not just like, oh, buy a fish, buy some food, it's all good. That is not a guarantee. Matter of fact, the success rate of buying one, successfully keeping it alive, is pretty darn low. And I went many years without getting another one because I kind of felt bad. I'd buy one, it would die. I'd buy one, it would die. And it wasn't like I was doing a terrible thing. I have a reef full of healthy stuff. I had Aptasia, I had Mahanos, I had worms. And yet the Copperband would come in and die. So if you can buy a Copperband that's eating in the fish store, if they show you it eating and you watch it happen, buy that fish and buy that food. Buy exactly what they used and bring that home with you. The Copperband that's in my reef right now was a replacement for the first one I bought that didn't make it. And the store was nice enough to give me another one. And I've told that story. Basically, it died. I just called the store and said, do you have a replacement policy? And they said, no. I said, okay, that's fine. I didn't know, and I wanted to be sure I asked in case you did, because if you did, I want to know. But if you don't, that's fine. And he says, you know what, Mark, just come back in. We'll give you another one. And I was like, wow, okay. And I didn't go back for a year. And when I was in the store store owner said, Mark, we have something for you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because it was one of these LFS bus tours. And, that's why I was at that store, because it's so far away. And he said, your name has been on my wall for a year. I'm giving you a Copperband today. And I was like, oh, no, that's so long ago. Forget it. It was my fault. I should have come back. I didn't. And he's like, no, we're giving you a Copperband. I said, well, can you please feed it for me? I want to see what it eats. And he used live brine shrimp, the things that are swimming, sea monkeys. And he put those in the tank. And the Copperband ate them, and I said, okay, I'll take the Copperband, and I'm going to buy a bunch of your brine shrimp. And that's exactly what I did. And I brought her home. I put her through safety stop, like I recommend to everyone. And then I gave her brine shrimp, and brine shrimp, and brine shrimp, and I put her in my tank. And then I went to the local fish store over here, Fish Paradise, because Frank doesn't have any. And Fish Paradise had a whole bunch of brine shrimp, but it was these little tiny bags. Said, can I have a big, giant bag of them? And the store owner thought I was crazy, but an employee said, I'll take care of Mark. And he got me a ton of brine shrimp, and I paid for it, whatever it costs, 10, 15 bucks. And then I fed a truckload of brine shrimp to the reef. And see, now it's harder because the Copperband is zipping about everywhere. But I have, 28 other mouths thinking, oh, this is different. I'll eat it. Because they'll eat anything I put in the tank. And I had to make sure there's enough left over that the Copperband would get some. And that's why I started dropping in the bloodworms, and I was dropping in the PE mysis, and different things to try and hopefully get it to switch to some other food besides the brine shrimp. And that was what worked for me. You might, since you're already in the situation where it's not interested in certain things, you might try scallops and just like break them open and leave them on the half shell with the meat. You might mince the meat up. You might find some kind of food from Reef Nutrition at your local fish store that you could try. Oyster Feast is a liquid, and I strongly believe that stuff creates cyano. I'm sorry. But some of the other foods might work, like arthropods. You might try that one. And that other one I talked about, that brine shrimp, whatever they call it, some kind of feast. I would try that and see if maybe your Copperband will eat that. Good luck. This one is not to me. That's someone asking someone else a question. You know, Rick, you make that sound so simple. Just take that coral, put it on a frag plug, put it inside a bag of water, put it in a cooler, ship it overnight, and you've got a frag. That's true. Yes, I can do all of that. It's effort. I'm not a coral vendor. And my overnight shipping is like 80, 85 bucks for FedEx. And then the cooler itself, you know, I mean, I save those. Actually, when I receive anything in a cooler, I put it in the back room. So if someone comes to my house and gets some corals, I can say, do you have a cooler? And they almost always say no. And I pull the one out and I put all their stuff in it and I put the lid on top and I hand it to them and they go home. So yes, I can ship, but it's not going to be cheap. So that's the reality. If I was a coral vendor, I was like, oh yeah, I'll be happy to sell you one. I am toying with a thought after I frag of doing some of these things I've watched other companies do. You know how they say buy $250 in corals and you get free shipping? What they do is they give you like 6 frags for that $250. And then whatever shipping costs. You know, let's say it's 85 bucks. So what did you end up making, like 170 or so, or 150? I mean, it's still money that you made, and you know, it helps pay the electric bill. So I was kind of toying with the thought of making a couple of those frag packs and just selling a couple and just doing that kind of an offer. I don't know. Let me know if you think that's an idea that you like. I don't know. It's a thought. But yeah, the quad color is a beautiful coral. And I need to turn off my metal halide bulb. That's why the timer went off. I knew there was a reason I had that on here. So I'm using the apex right now to switch. That's my controller. Oops. So I'm going to switch it to auto. And now the tank is dark and the fish are going to go find their hidey holes to sleep in. Stuff's starting to get warm. How disappointing. Gabrielle, are they helping you? I see a lot of conversations about par and acros and stuff. With Black Friday fast approaching, is there anything you plan to get for your tank? Would you suggest for someone with a 32-gallon biocube to get? Wow, it's impossible for me to suggest what you should get for that tank. I don't know if you're talking about a coral, a fish, a clam, an anemone. There's a lot of different things you could put. You could have invertebrates. You could fill it up with cleaner shrimp. It really comes down to what you're passionate about, what certain shape of coral you really like. But for me, I kind of shop for things. The bubbles. I shop for things just on a whim, not really because of a certain holiday or date. I mean, today I had a goal. Because it was the anniversary of my tank, I wanted to get something for the tank, so I got some acans. I was thinking in my head, I want acans, and that's what I bought. And then I got the 2 walking dendros, which was fun. And I put them in the anemone cube because I'm afraid the Copperband might want to eat my little walking dendros because they look, you know, like little wandering aptasias. So. If this question is to me, let's see. Do you have any peppermint shrimp? There are a couple inside the anemone cube. And I actually was looking for them tonight because, again, I was worried about the walking dendros. And I kind of feel like I have to kind of shuffle some things around to make sure everything's okay. They usually pick at things. Peppermints can kind of be aggressive with LPS corals. I don't think you should have a problem with the Recordia. I mean, it might be nipping at it or stealing food off of it if you're trying to target feed a Recordia. But that's kind of unusual. I wouldn't expect that to happen. Yeah, that's kind of my biggest challenge is Recordias don't do well in my reef. Have you ever had an elegance coral? I've never bought one. Matter of fact, I was kind of scared off of those way back in 2005. There was a big problem with all the ones being imported were imported with a disease in them. And so it was kind of like a ticking time bomb where you could buy it and it would die. You'd buy another one, they would die. And so many were dying, they actually had the Elegance Coral Project going on to research what was going on and how to stop the death. So I kind of was like, I'm not going to get that coral. It terrifies me. I don't want to, I don't want to buy something that's going to die for sure. And I've seen some beautiful ones, and whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. And that's as far as I go. I don't go to the next level like, oh, and I should get one. a few of my friends, like Dwayne, had a beautiful, huge one in his tank, and they've told me that they have sweepers and they sting stuff nearby. So that again is a factor in my tank. Where could I put the thing where it would get along with its neighbors? This right here is an interesting question. It talks about a T5 LED fixture. There is such a combination. Actually, there's a couple. SB Reefs actually makes a T5 bulb with LEDs inside it. So it's completely waterproof, and it looks like a T5 bulb, but it's LED powered. And it was showcased, I believe, at MACNA. And I don't know the price, so that's on the market. And then Reef Bright is making hybrid light fixtures where you have T5s and LEDs. So it's not a T5 LED, but it's a combination of the two combined. Would you guys pick this hobby over your wife? Okay, so that is kind of a funny question, because when things don't go right with your tank, and then, like let's say, the significant other, the spouse, is hating on it, then a lot of people will automatically say, well, time for a new significant other, time for a new girlfriend, time for a new husband, because the tank will never leave. And, you got to decide what will keep the peace under your roof at your home. But picking one thing over another, I mean, look, my son will not deny it because it's 100% true. He hated my tank, and it seemed like everything was always about the tank all the time. Because it's a living thing. It's just like a puppy. You have to take care of it. It's got to be walked, it's got to be fed, it's got to be groomed, it's got to be taken to, did I say go to the vet? Got to take it to the vet. I mean, there's a lot of things you have to do. And if you don't, that animal is going to be in distress or worse. And we take care of it. And with an aquarium, it's the same thing. If anything, it's more complicated because there's so much that can go wrong. That's what makes the 5-year anniversary so exciting to me. Because to run a reef tank for 5 years, did you know that the average lifespan of an aquarium in this hobby supposedly is 5 years? That they say most people that come in the hobby, they're done in 5 years. And I have been in this hobby for 20. Matter of fact, I have this joke. This is a joke, but you know what? I kind of want to run with it just because it's funny. The last business I had, I did it for 21 years, and I was sick of it. I was just like, I'm not doing it ever again. I'm done. And I've been in this hobby for 20 years. So I was going to start telling you guys, this is my last year, so enjoy it, because in 364 more days, I'm gone. And then, do an update and say, okay, we're 358 days and I'm gone. Just count down to nothing. And then literally on the 0 day, I'm just not there. I just love that concept. I feel like running with that joke. But anyway, and I'd have to have a shirt that counts down the dates or something. But keeping my tank alive for 5 years, that's 60 months of avoiding all the things that can go wrong to kill your tank. That's huge to me. And you guys have heard me say this. I've never, in my entire hobby, have I ever had a tank crash. I take care of things. Things might go a little awry, but I never have catastrophic failure. I've never let caulk washer destroy a tank because I won't use it. I keep on top of my water parameters. I keep my glass clean. I look for stray electricity. I try to track down things way before they can go wrong. And I watch my corals and my fish for indicators of what might not be right and solve it way before things go wrong. There's a guy I've been following on Instagram who just posted today, I'm taking a break, thank you for your patience, I'll be back. And we're all like, what is going on? And in the comments, he said that his Nano or his Pico crashed. And of course I answered, what the heck, what happened? And I haven't heard the reply yet because I'm on this live stream with you. But he took it hard because a lot of corals died. Well, why did they die? What happened? What was the disaster? How could it have been avoided? How can you recover from it? And how do you learn from it? That's how I approach all this. And so keeping our tanks alive for a long time is important. And sometimes it does seem like we're putting it ahead of our spouse, our family, our children, because it can't wait. If you ignore it while you're entertaining, let's say you're, let me take this off the screen. Let's say your kid has to go to a baseball game today, and your tank is really having a problem and you have to deal with it. You're like, I'm sorry, I can't take you to the game. And they're freaked out. They're mad. They're like, how can you put that thing ahead of me? You're always in that tank all the time. I'm sick of that tank. You don't love me. Have you heard any of these things? Yeah, that happens. You're just like, look, I just need my 15 or 20 minutes or 2 hours to solve this problem, and then we'll go do whatever we're going to do, or I'll make it up to you. And, it sounds like you're just, saying a cliche, but it's actually kind of true, because if you just abandon that tank when it's going into hell, when things are really falling apart, and you go do whatever is your kid needed or your spouse demanded of you, well, you'll come back to a dead tank, and you'll be cleaning everything out, where I will not do that. Now, on the other hand, there are people, I know people, I'm not going to call their names out, but I know people that have called in sick to their job because their tank needed something, and they had to deal with it. And they had to make sure nothing was said on social media so they didn't get in trouble with their boss. All right. Let's see. I like this comment because it's something I do myself. The feed button that makes my life simple for feeding, it is awesome. And I've been using that one ever since Dave Botwin came here to our town to do a presentation to our club. And he brought all this stuff, and I said, look, whatever you're bringing for the club, thank you. Bring more, I'll pay for it. And then I said, Dave, will you come to my house and help me install it? And he came over and he set it up, and I've never touched it since. Matter of fact, it still has kind of what I would call the temporary wiring. I never made the clean version. But that button is awesome. And there's 3 buttons on my stand. The yellow button's the feed button. There's a blue button. That's the water change button. That must be really dusty right now. And then there's a white button. What's the white button for? I can't remember. The blue button was for water change. And what it did was, when I pushed that button in, it would stop the return pump, the skimmer, the heaters. It would stop all alarms, all email notifications. It would turn off the top-off system. I think that's everything. And it would kill all that for 45 minutes, which was more than enough time to pump water out of the sump and replace it with new water, and then just wait for the timer to finish counting down, and then everything would come back to life. And I guess like maybe 10 minutes after that, my alarms and alerts would come on. Because when you change the water, the probes are exposed to air, so all of a sudden it thinks the tank's too cold, and then the water comes in, the tank's too warm or whatever. I hated getting those alarms and alerts, so I use that button. The white one, I feel like I did something with that recently, but boy, I can't remember what it's for. I'll have to look it up. But I did set up for some useful reason. Anyway, it'll come to me later. Okay, granted, that is very true. That divorces are not cheap. And yes, there's ultimatums in relationships. Now, when I got into this hobby, okay, everything's so funny to me. When I got into this hobby, it's because I walked out of the courthouse with my divorce papers, and I decided to spend money on me and bought an aquarium. So I'm celebrating 20 years divorced. Yes, I'm winning. Now, in that 20 years since then, I've fallen in love a few times, but no marriages that we'll talk about. Oh, I like this one. Do you think there are any underrated corals that you love but aren't popular? Oh, man. Underrated corals. It seems like when you guys ask me, maybe it's the champagne, but when you guys ask me stuff on the spot, sometimes my brain just goes blank. And, then I'll think about these questions later, and I may come up with answers. An underrated coral that I love. I mean, I love the sun coral. I don't know if it's underrated. I know that a lot of people are scared of it. They think that it's a lot of work, where, like I said, you just have to feed it every single day. And you'll see beautiful exhibits at public aquariums, like the Steinhardt. You might see it at the Long Island Aquarium. Well, any of them. They have these exhibits with dendros and tubastria and gorgonians and sea whips, which are those ones that spiral. And if you look really close, they have all these polyps sticking out all over the spiral wire coral. It's amazing. I don't know if those are underrated. Those are really actually complicated corals to keep alive because of all the feeding you have to give them. So I would say sun corals it's one of my favorite corals, and it is a coral you have to take care of. You cannot neglect it. I don't know if it's underrated. What would be an underrated coral? I'm just looking at my reef for inspiration. Underrated. Duncans? Duncans are actually pretty easy, and they're in that. They're an LPS coral, and they kind of look like a really fat tubaceroid colony. I've got 2 of those in there. They're also called whisker corals, and I think they're really nice. They were super popular, and now people don't seem to care as much. And like I said, I've got a couple. And matter of fact, I was just recently looking at them because if you put them up higher, they branch out and they really grow. They can spread like crazy. And mine are kind of like in this isolated spot in the corner of my tank. And I was thinking about maybe moving them to a better spot so they can get bigger. But at the same time, as things get larger in my tank, they take up space, and I have problems with stinging. So at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to touch it. So I haven't decided. Oh, I can tell I'm getting tired. My sinuses are starting to bother me. I hope that's not too annoying for you guys. Let's see. I'm just going to tell you this. Go to your fish store and say, I want to buy frozen bloodworms. And just tell them, I don't care how long it takes you to get them in. Just let me know when you're going to get them in. That's my recommendation. And if you cannot do that, then you should buy them online frozen from somebody that offers it. Whether it's Amazon or Live Aquaria, some company will have it. But you tell a store what you want, what you need, and you're going to buy it. You'll even pay for it in advance. And it's just a matter of them getting it from their wholesaler. I hate it when a store says, I cannot get you this or I won't do it. I'll just go to a different store because I'm the customer. And it's not that you're asking for something that's impossible to get. You say, I want frozen bloodworms. And if you tell them the name of the brand and ask me later, I'll get you the name off the package. It might be Hikari. I don't know who makes it because I just buy the package and I grab it. I don't read it. But just, they come in cubes and you just pop out a cube. And I would just say, I want this. I'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you very much. And you leave. That's just funny. How can you tell if your leather coral is emitting a chemical warfare? Well, they kind of do. They shed. A leather coral sheds. And about, I'd say once a month, they will just completely close down and like this tissue will blow off and land on other corals. That actually can be a pollutant for other corals and it actually can affect them. You may have fish that will eat that stuff, that mucus that came off. And then the coral, after the shedding, will actually grow a little bit bigger. Now, it's not really that you're looking for a specific thing to tell you that there's a problem in the tank. They just do it. So I recommend you run carbon in a reactor. And the carbon that I recommend is granulated activated carbon. But you can also use what's called pelletized carbon, which is a larger, they look like little rabbit droppings. No, that's the wrong shape. Hamster droppings? I'm trying to remember what animal has a long poop. But you put that in a reactor and you use a half a cup per 50 gallons and you have very slow flow going through it and that will remove the contaminants in the water so that your corals all get along. Nephthia is a coral that's way worse on a reef tank. Nephthia? Sinularia. Sinularia is the one that's way worse. It's also in the leather family, and it's much more aggressive chemically wise. Leathers, for the most part, are okay. So I wouldn't sweat it too much. Just run carbon and change. I would do carbon at least once a month. Run it for 3-4 days. Let it polish the water. If you're doing water changes, that also will help remove some of the stuff in the water. And that will keep things safe. When I had my humongous toadstool leather that literally took 2 people to lift it out of the aquarium, I ran carbon all the time because I had all these SPS corals and I had a huge leather coral. And I knew if I didn't do it that those corals were going to be in trouble. And I stayed on top of carbon religiously. I got this question here. I answered this recently on Facebook. They asked, why do you run a refugium if you're dosing lanthanum? I'm not running the refugium to remove phosphate. I don't even really care if it removes nitrate. I'm using it to grow macroalgae so I don't have nuisance algae in the tank. And if you watch my video, you don't see a lot of nuisance algae. There's some Valonia in there, some bubble algae, but I don't have hair algae in my tank. And that's because the macroalgae, the big leaves are growing, and so the little stuff won't grow. and that's how my tank stays algae free. In addition, it's a place where pods can breed, and the more pods that are down there making little baby pods that flood into the system and blow up into the tank, it's live food for the system. So I enjoy it. Plus, it's interesting to look at. I like it. We have a nude reefer in our group. Since I haven't done any water changes in a year, I haven't gone through any salt in a year. I bought a huge barrel of salt and I still have half a thing left, and right now I have 2 buckets of a new salt to try out. That's going to go in my reservoir in the next week as soon as I get it completely cleaned out and replumbed. That's a big project. I'm not dosing any amino acids in my tank at this time. I am dosing Prodibio. I have been trying out the new Coral, I think it's called Coral Essentials? Essential Elements? Coral Essentials, I think is the name. And I've only tried it a little bit. I have not been like putting it in systematically, like on a daily basis to say, oh, that's changed my life. And that's a problem. You know, if you only put it in occasionally, you can't say that it did anything. So I need to just make it part of my routine, like feeding the tank. And once I do that, then I can say if it makes a difference on my tank. One thing that some of my friends really love, which I mentioned in the video today, is they love AquaPower. And I've considered using that, but at the same time, my tank is doing so well without it that I'm not really feeling a need to do it. The MindStream device is not quite on the market. I think it's still under development. You know, there's some beta testers out there. Would I try it? Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've got a friend actually that is an investor, and he's got it on his tank. And I wanted to ask him today to show me, like on his phone, if he had an app, you know, like what are the results or something. And I totally forgot. We were so busy talking about other things. But that actually popped into my head, and then I forgot to bring it up. So I am going to ask him soon because I want to know what's going on. Are HANA good test kits? Are you talking about the HANA checkers? They are very popular. A lot of people are using them because they like a device where they can read the digits on the front instead of trying to compare colors. The phosphate one is pretty good. The alkalinity one's very popular. I keep hearing rumblings about the calcium one not being so great. I don't know what the over-under is on that one. If it's, I kind of hear both sides of that one. So I don't know. I actually have that one, and I need to try it out. It's been sitting in the back room. It looks so complicated that I wanted to really film it before I unpack it. The salt brand that I currently have in my possession is Aquavitro. And that is the one I've used over the last few years, but I haven't changed salt in my tank because I haven't done any water changes in a year. If you're talking about a filter for the camera, you're looking for Coral View lens, it's going to be in the dry goods area, and it's a brand new item. It should be on the front page of my website. Yes, the camera filter. You know, I've never done a display fuge. I'm always down on my belly on the floor looking at it. I had a friend who made a beautiful one. I think the guy used to have a planted tank, and so it was kind of like a natural thing. So he had a reef tank, and then right next to it, he had a beautiful refugium, and I think they both plumbed down into a sump, or maybe the refugium drained into the tank, and the tank went into a sump. And it was really cool. And if I had that, I'd throw seahorses in it. Because it was really, really pretty. Hey, Rico, I see you got in here. Thanks for popping in tonight. This stream has been going really long. I can stop at any time. I can stop anytime I want. We're an hour and 24 minutes in. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And I hope you guys really enjoyed that video today. I was really excited. Let me tell you a backstory about that video really quick. So I've got this really nice neighbor across the street who is older than I am. I have no idea how old she is, but she's older than I am. And that is the most wonderful way of saying it. And she's been battling cancer for about 6 years. I don't even know which one it is. I'm sure she told me, and I've since forgotten because I have the worst memory when it comes to that kind of stuff. But she's been battling it, and she has to go in for these treatments. and she posts on Facebook, when she's hooked up to all the machines, and she's getting the chemicals put in her system to kill the cancer. And I asked her, and she asked me to run an errand with her yesterday. She said, could you please take me to the oncologist, and I got to get this prescription, and I got to go to the post office, and I just drove her. I was like, that's fine. And then I said, hey, what are you doing tonight? I said, would you be willing to, are you up to it? Are you up for it? Would you be willing to help me film my tank? And she's like, absolutely, I would love to do that. And so she came over, and she's been to my house a couple of times, and she's like, oh my God, I would never leave this room. They should put this in every treatment room. Wherever people are fighting cancer, they should have one of these tanks in that room, so you have something to look at. It's so relaxing, it's so beautiful, and which I totally agree with. A lot of hospitals do have such a tank. Usually it's in the waiting room, but the treatment room, where you're sitting for 4 or 5 hours waiting for something to be infused into your body, that sounds like the perfect room. And you could have all the chairs, you could set the tank up in the middle of the room and put all the chairs in a circle around it, right? That would be awesome. Anyway, she helped me film last night, and she does not have an iPhone, and that's what I film on. And so I had to kind of show her how to use the iPhone, how I use the iPhone, how I try to bring down the brightness, and I try to lock the screen so the focus doesn't do this weird, in-out thing. And we wanted to make sure the sound was right, and we spent hours filming that last night, and she followed me around and hopped up on my table when we had to film from above downward, and she got up on the walkboard and looked at the reef. It was really, really cool. As a matter of fact, this glass right here, I didn't have a regular champagne glass. All mine have like 2014, 2015, 2016 on the side. And this was on my front doorstep when I came back from the bus tour with a little card saying, congratulations on 5 years with your tank. And it was so fun helping you, and here's a glass so you can drink your champagne out of. And I thought it was really sweet of her. And at the very last second of the video I uploaded, if you stayed all the way to the last frame, you'll hear me say, and this is the video about the 5-year reef, that we're testing the audio, and we were having so many problems with the microphone that I said, it'll probably be 15 years before we get this right, and you hear her laugh at the very last second. So that was really nice of her to come over. And she is always, she said, anytime you want to do this, I'm happy to come over and film. So that was really, really cool. Oh, thanks, Rick. Thanks for answering my question earlier about reading descriptions on the videos. I was curious. When I go on Instagram and I'm scrolling down, take this off the screen, it's been on here way too long. I'm scrolling through, I look at the pictures and I always read the comment underneath. And I look at what people type in their comments, and it's like they don't even read it. They just blurt out their answer, and they don't, or they ask about the question when the answer was right there in the paragraph. And so I was just curious. Do you guys read? I'd like to know. It's like you guys are answering stuff from 30 minutes ago, and I'm finally getting to it. I'm so bad. I have not done any kind of an affiliate program, but I do have a group on Facebook that I set up called Club melevsreef, and it is a group to help people answer questions. So if you can go to facebook.com/group/melevsreef, you can join the group, and it is a group that is non-aggressive. I don't allow it. I go through, we sanitize threads, I throw people out, they're never allowed back in. Literally, you get thrown out, you're never coming back. It's a one-time shot to get in. So, I'm turning everything on. Turn that off. Turn that off. And we'll turn this off too. But yeah, I want everyone to get along and be nice. I treat everyone as nicely as I possibly can. I'm not an aggressive person, and I don't tolerate it in my house. I don't tolerate it on my website, and I'm definitely going to tolerate it on my group. So if someone decides that they just want to have a bad day and go nuts, you'll never do it again in my group. That was it. You're gone. And I had a kid that kind of went off the handle the other day, and I went in and just ripped the entire conversation out, threw it away, and told him, you are on your last leg. The thread is so thin right now. So thin. And he tried to defend. I said, there's nothing to defend, in a private message. I was like, you don't moderate, we moderate. You just behave or you're gone. And but yeah, I'm not going to tolerate any kind of garbage. So I want you guys to feel safe in there. I want you to feel like you can ask a question. If you can answer a question, please do. If you see the question's been answered, don't answer it too. For people to all, ID this, And then every single answer is amphipod, 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 amphipod. You don't have to do that. They got the answer. We're done. If you want to put a link to more information about amphipods, that's fine. But to get annoyed or say, oh, I'm sick of that, or I've seen that question before, just keep scrolling. Find something you do like. Answer that. Share something about your tank. Teach us something that's worked for you. That's what the group is for, is to help each other and to feel friendly and happy and safe. So that's why I made that group. And we're coming up on 3,000 members, which is really awesome. Ooh, here is a great question. How much would it cost to build an 800-gallon aquarium? All right. Now, are you saying how much will I charge you to build an 800-gallon aquarium? Or how much will it cost to set up an 800-gallon aquarium? And I bet at this point, that question was so long ago because it doesn't say the times on here. You're probably long gone. But for funsies, we're going to take 800 gallons times $47. $37,600 is what it's going to cost for you to set up an 800-gallon aquarium. That's assuming you can afford the glass box itself. If you have it made out of acrylic, odds are the acrylic alone will be $37,000, and you'll still need a stand, and you'll need all the pumps, and you'll need the gear, and you need a sump and all that. But yeah, big acrylic aquariums are really expensive. But to set up my tank is a 400-gallon tank, so call it double of mine. Yeah, $37,000 is pretty close. That's actually pretty good. I came up with the $47 a gallon rule in 2010 when I did all the math of what it would cost to set up a reef tank using all good gear. And that does not include the live rock, the sand, the livestock, and the water. But everything else was in the price. That would be tank, stand, canopy, lighting, pumps, sump, heaters, test kits, RO unit, dosers, timers, controllers. Yeah, $47 a gallon. So whatever you're ever looking at getting, $47 a gallon gives you a ballpark of what it'll cost before you add your livestock. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find that video and I'm going to watch it because I'd love to hear what they have to say. That's it. I want to know what they have to say. I'd love to hear. Thank you. The driveway thing just came up on my screen. I want to know what he wants to know about your driveway too. Let's see. Ah, here we go. I finally get to see the answer. An abnormal fear that my driveway would fall apart in the event of a straight truck backing up to deliver a slab of acrylic for a large reef tank. All right. Well, fair enough. But you know what? The drivers and there was a follow-up too. The drivers may not come up your driveway. They may park on the street and say, I refuse to put my truck on your driveway. And which is really annoying because you're like, but if you just back up, this would be so easy to unload. Like, nope, not going to do it. And I guess people sue people. I guess that's the problem. It's not like the truck's going to collapse through and come out the other side in China. If the concrete crumbles or cracks, oh well, that's why there's patch. But sometimes you'll have trucks that will just pull up in front of your house and then they'll have a pallet jack and they'll put they actually look funny. I'll just do this for a while. The pallet jack, and they'll pull it up the driveway. And I've received multiple pallets that way over the years. That's a great question. Are you going to fix the leak on the plumbing for your 10-year anniversary? I have 2 spots that decide to leak occasionally, and I have no idea why. They want to leak, they leak for a while, then they stop leaking. There's one spot here that's on the anemone cube on the inside of the fish room behind the wall. But if I try to touch that plumbing, it's not an abnormal fear. I am terrified that if I try to touch that plumbing, it will break loose the plumbing under the anemone cube and drain that tank. And I do not want to mess with that tank. So my thought is to replace that tank soon. Just a whole new tank, new stand, wrap around canopy, make it all pretty, and then hook up brand new plumbing that goes into the sump area and just continue the reef. And so you guys would watch me do a tank transfer. That'd be a really cool video. But I am not going to touch that plumbing over there. If there's something I could spray on it so it never leaks again, I would totally do that. But I am not going to do anything that could possibly tweak and affect those bulkheads on that 5-year-old tank because of the way I set it up. It's fine, but that's it. And then the other drip, it's just a pain in the butt that I need to I almost cussed. Pain in the butt area that I need to fix. And I kind of want to put a valve there anyway to kind of like control how much water goes into the refugium. So I've got the pieces sitting there. It's just a matter of me cutting and gluing and replacing. I just haven't done it yet. It's sort of like woodwork. It'll get done someday. Do I sell sumps? Do you know me? Oh my God. Okay, I want you to go to this amazing website. melevsreef.com is loaded with sump information. And then also, where's that other thing I made? We'll put this on. Let me turn this one off. If you go to this page, nope, not that one. Where's the other one I had? Oh, I see. Why are all these things on the screen? Go away. Everything go away. I don't want this one. I want this gone. I want this one on the screen, and we'll have to hide your question. And there's too many things on the screen. Why are there so many? That page right there, facebook.com/melevsreef, is my business page. And if you go to photos and then go to albums and then go to sumps, you'll see a ton of sumps. I have a ton of pictures in there of sumps I build. And I sell a lot of top-off containers and skimmer stands and baffles to make your own sump. But I do make sumps, and I've got one I'm working on this week. I just shipped one out last week, and the customer told me it arrived intact. I'm super happy about that. That was the one I showed you guys on the live stream last week. And I packed the heck out of that sump to make sure it would get there safely, and I'm so glad it got there. And I'm looking forward to hearing how well it's doing. So yes, I definitely build sumps. And I sell them. Let's see. I also sell RODI systems, and I cannot believe how many people buy jugs of water and haul it home instead of making their own at home. The downside of making water in your own home is the potential of flooding your home. And that's just because you made a mistake, you forgot, and you flooded the room. That is just, it's like turning on the bathtub to fill it up and then going and taking a phone call and coming back and your bathtub's overflowing. It's same principle, except a little noisier. RODI systems are super stealthy, and you set your timer, and your timer goes off, and you're watching this TV show, or you're on the phone, or you're whatever you're doing, and then you finally like, oh my God, and it occurs to you, and you run over, and of course there's water everywhere, and that's your fault. But there are ways to set it up to where you can avoid flooding your home. And when is the last time you guys heard me flood my house with an RO system? Because I installed floats everywhere, and that doesn't happen. I'm literally set up very, very safely. And I have videos about RODI systems, and I have videos about how to set it up to be efficient and effective and have a really nice tank. So I would say get an RODI system, use the RO part to make drinking water so everyone in your household benefits, and then use the DI section for your tank, and quit hauling jugs of water in the back of your car to the house. You're paying a store to make water that you can make in your own house any day, any night, any holiday. It's not like, oh, the store's closed and I'm out of water. Like, you can just turn it on and make some water. So definitely get an RODI system. I highly recommend it. And I sell an amazing RODI system for $184. It's on the website. And I actually build them myself. So you're getting a product that I've touched. This is a good question. Whoop. That is not what I clicked. I clicked this one. There we go. Why do clownfish suck on anemones? They've started hosting, and it's so weird. They're actually tasting and acquiring an immunity to the stingers of the tentacles. And so they will do that. They will suck on those tentacles, and that way it kind of creates a chemical relationship to where they can tolerate swimming through it without getting stung. A clownfish can't just swim up to one and get into it and be good to go. Even though they have a protective mucus membrane on their skin, they have to basically taste the anemone and get used to it and then build that immunity. So that's why they do it. And yeah, it is kind of weird. I am going to say no. I have not done that. I don't know what that is. I have no clue. So that was your answer. This one here, Rick, I'm going to tell you, there is absolutely no information on the web that proves categorically what will make a bubble tip bubble. I have done the homework. I have talked with lots of people. I have asked people to give me their insight. Every single opinion on the planet has been given. More light, more flow, more food, less food. Nobody knows. And my bubble tips all look like long tentacles. But at the very top of my tank, all the anemones near the top, they're bubbling. But I would be happy to turn off the flow and watch them bubble. Or turn down the light and watch them bubble. Or turn up the light and watch them bubble. That would make me super happy. Cannot find the rhyme or reason. And the more you research it, the more you Google it, the more YouTube you watch, the more you'll discover nobody knows. I'm telling you, I would love to have the absolute, this is the answer, we know it for a fact, every single time we do it, it works. That answer is just not out there. It's crazy. But you know what? If someone gives me that answer and I can recreate it and do it myself and it happens, I will be happy forever and I will tell everyone else the answer. That would be fantastic. Do fish need a nightlight? They absolutely do not. They can swim around during the daytime, they can handle dusk, and then they go to sleep at night. And there are nocturnal fish that actually hunt and prowl at night. They have huge eyes, and that would be like pajama cardinals and bengais. Those are squirrel fish. These are all fish that are looking for food in the dark. That's why they have huge eyes. They don't need a light. So let your tank rest. If this question was directed at me, I have not had an arrow crab in a long time, but I love them. I think they're awesome. I saw one today. I think they're really cool, and I wouldn't mind getting one. I just haven't bought one in a long time. I had one many years ago in my 29-gallon aquarium, and you'll see pictures of them on my Critter ID page. Really cool animals, and they actually will eat bristleworms. So if you're worried about bristleworms in your tank, you can put an arrow crab in there, and he will eat some of them. He won't eat them all, but he'll keep the population under control. What is the most important thing you have learned from water flow and placement of wave makers in your tanks? I heard a long time ago, what matters is chaotic flow. And so that is pretty much what I've stuck with. So I always am looking for ways to create chaos in my water flow rather than laminar flow where it just moves straight across in a straight flow. Matter of fact, some tanks that just constantly move this direction, all the corals will just bend that way. And they all just kind of grow that way. It's kind of boring. With chaotic flow, you are not only helping keep everything clean and everything's rinsed off so that avoids detritus building up, it also causes a ricochet with the lighting to where you get that nice shimmer in your tank because the water is churning so strongly. I like a lot of flow in a tank. And there are SPS keepers out there that have 60 times turnover inside their display tank. That's not the water coming up from the sump. Forget that. I'm talking about in the tank. So having power heads down low, having power heads up high, having penductors or eductors or sea swirls at the surface that are moving around or creating a really strong ripple on the surface, that's important. And I highly recommend it. And whenever I see people's tanks where the surface of the top looks really smooth, or there's a big oily slick in one end, I know they need to make more flow. The tank's not doing well. And also, low flow tanks oftentimes deal with cyanobacteria issues. So to avoid that, you want lots of good flow. This question here, yeah, this is not directed at me. That was a question, but it's a good point that if you have sand in a tank and you're using the Vortec pumps, that not only do they blow water out, but they're sucking water back into the pump, and it creates an undertow, which actually can move your sand bed. And I had an area, well, I still do a little bit. The left end of my tank, actually the sand bed is affected by the MP60 that I have. But the way my rockwork and my corals are growing, it's kind of taking care of itself finally to where the sand is staying where I like it. Ah, good question here. Is there some reason why a leather coral may not be opening up? Guess what? It may have nothing to do with water parameters. It may not be the coral. It could be of a fish nipping at it. I was growing a leather coral in my tank that was smooth as could be all the time, and I never knew why. And then one day I made a catastrophic failure with my tank, and I left the pumps off overnight and killed half my fish. And one of the fish I killed was my powder blue tang. And it turns out that powder blue tang was nibbling. Anytime a polyp came up, he nibbled, and it would keep that coral smooth. And when that fish died, the leather became this beautiful, the polyps came out so tall, it was like a field of hay moving back. Is that right? Hay, straw? I don't know. I'm saying the wrong plant, but I think it's hay. Straw. I don't know. And just moving. It's gorgeous. And I really missed that fish, but boy, the benefit of losing that fish was phenomenal to making that leather not only look better, but it grew huge and healthy, and it was fantastic. And I used to have a lawnmower blenny that would swim down inside it, and then he would just poke his head up through the ripples. You know, here's the leather, and he's like, boop, and he's just sitting there. And he looked so adorable. And I had cucumbers climbing up the side and going inside and coming out the other side, and I had the purple tang would swim down into this giant leather and vanish and then reappear, you know, because it was such a huge coral. And I loved it. So it could be you have a fish that's nipping on that coral. And the way to know this is to sit way far away from your tank where you're basically out of sight, maybe in a dark room while the tank's lit up, and just watch your tank for 20, 30 minutes and just see what's going on. Maybe that something is bothering that coral. And yes, I do need to find out what the white button does. Let me see if I can figure it out here really quick while you're waiting. White button. Opening the slider, looking at the code. Defer. Oh, I think I know what it is. How did I not? I blame the champagne. Okay, I got it. Anyway, speaking of champagne. The white button is a defer command to run the XHOs for an extra 15 minutes. And the word defer means to delay. And I did not know that until someone recently told me that I need to learn what this word means, because I think it's a stupid word. And it's the code inside the Apex. They love the word defer. I'm like, what the heck does defer mean? Because I've heard I defer to your better judgment, which means like I'm going to listen to your advice and follow it. I had not really thought about the word defer for any other way, so I Googled up, you know, a dictionary and looked it up, and it said to delay. And anyway, I'd rather they just made the word delay in the code. That would make sense. Run a timer, delay a timer, 15 minutes. But anyway, I hit the white button, and that makes that light come on for 15 minutes, and then that light turns off automatically, and I have to remember to turn it off physically. So I love that button. And I do actually use it quite a bit, so it's funny. I couldn't remember what it stood for. Somebody said, push the white button. Sion from India is on with us today. That is awesome. I love that we have people from all over the world that gets on this live stream. Greetings from NL Can. Okay, I'm going to assume Canada. NL? Northern Lights? I don't know. Have you ever cultured your own live foods? I have done phytoplankton. I have an article about my website. I have done baby brine shrimp. I tried rotifers briefly. I've never tried to make adult brine shrimp because there's not really a lot of benefit. But brand new, just hatched baby brine or noptali, those are fantastic foods for your tank. And actually, I kind of want to start doing it again just to throw it in my tank. I think it would be kind of fun. I'm kind of in the mood to grow phyto and noptali one more time. And I used to do that. I did it with my 280 gallon, and I offered it to my tank every single, the noptali daily, and the phytoplankton weekly. And I've been seeing people posting in Club Melevsreef, and they've been showing their phyto, and it's like, oh man, I just want to grow some again. So that could be happening in 2019. That would be a cool one. Apparently I'm way behind. How far back am I? Somebody catch me up. Give me a timer so I have an idea. Because on my slider, it's like it's near the bottom, but every time I slide down, more comes up. Have you ever had ick in your reef tank? Well, you know, there's hints of maybe some in my tank on a couple of fish, but no, I've never had to deal with a full ick outbreak. And I did a live stream about this about a month ago with a friend named Jerry, and you can watch that whole video and hear the whole conversation on that. But no, I have not had to deal with it. How much longer will you be on? I'm getting tired. You know, I'm kind of tired too. We should probably wrap this up. It's way too long. When are you going to do a video about the Apex ATK? That's actually one of the videos I kind of think about doing, but it's not a priority. So it will happen. Could be a month from now. Could be 3 months from now. I don't know. I kind of want to do some Apex videos, but I also kind of want Neptune Systems to just roll out every kind of Apex video. I really do. I want them to do that. I think that would be awesome. And you know, if they don't do it, if I don't do it, I bet BRS will cover it completely. I can tell you this, Carlos from Coral View, he does some great in-depth Apex-related videos, and he shows the code. He explains the whole thing. I mean, man, it's stuff that will really teach you. So you can look for that right now because I've watched a couple. I mean, they were long. They were so long, I was like, oh my God. And I do long videos. Matter of fact, the video I uploaded to Facebook tonight, I wanted to upload like a 3 or 4 minute video, and it was 12 minutes. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just do things quick? Why is there always so much on there? Ah, this is a good question. If you could only choose one, Macna or Comic-Con, I think I wouldn't be going to Macna anymore. I am the biggest Comic-Con fan. I've got behind my head a Sideshow collectible mermaid that I bought. I love, love, love Comic-Con, and I think I would go there. So there you go. And that was the first collectible I've bought. I've been really dragging my feet on that one because they're so expensive, but I had to get one. All right, getting back in the hobby after 10 years, bought an RODI system from some other company, and 120 pounds of my rock is that I used 10 years ago. So you want to cook it? Yes, I actually have a video about this topic that's called How to Cook Live Rock the Right Way, Not the Wrong Way. I'd recommend you watch it, but in a nutshell, get everything in salt water, total darkness, run a skimmer, change the water weekly, take the rock and shake it really hard in your used water, and then move it into a barrel of clean water and let that run for another week, you know, and then, you know, clean out the dirty barrel, and then basically do the same thing. Shake that out and put that in the clean salt water. And you do that over a process. You know, you don't have to do it weekly. You can do it every couple of weeks, but the first few weeks, it's going to be disgusting. You're going to really want to attack it. And then as it sits in the clean salt water with a lot of circulation, it'll actually come to life. You'd be amazed. You don't have to add bacteria because there's bacteria deep inside the pores of that rock that literally will come back to life. It's not dead. You'd be amazed. I don't know the answer to this, but maybe someone in the live chat does, or maybe someone will know in the comments later on, because I don't run the Herbie system. But basically, any drain you have on your overflow box, when you turn the return pump back on, it all equalizes, and everything should be the same height. You shouldn't see changes in the overflow box. That water level should be the right height. Maybe I do know the answer. Thank you for the compliment. I really do appreciate that. And thank you for loving the live show. I do like doing them. Man, we've been at this for almost 2 hours. It's funny, I asked you guys to tell me where I was in the timeline, but it's going to take me forever to get to your answers. I'm trying not to ignore anyone. I have thought about the Flex Seal or some kind of thing I can wrap around the plumbing. Right now, I've just got a bucket underneath. But it's dry, so nothing's dripping, so it doesn't matter. Hey, I'm getting closer to caught up. Let's see. And it looks like Mike B has left us. Thanks for tuning in, sticking with us this long. And thank you very much for the anniversary wish. I'm so glad that my tank is doing so well. I'm really happy about that. And thank you for buying an RODI system for me. You're an awesome person. Funny you should mention wastewater. I was at one fish store today that was obviously making their own water, and I used the restroom briefly, and they had a pipe coming down from the ceiling, and water was just pouring out of it. And I was like, and people complain about wastewater? Oh my God, look at this thing go. So let me tell you this. If you actually do the math, if you take your water bill out and look at how much water you're using, and then look at how much water you're using with an RODI system, your bill is going to go up maybe $5 a month. You're not wasting a lot of water. It seems like so much water. Just like if you get a cut on your forehead and there's blood everywhere, like it seems like you're losing so much blood, but it's really just a mess. It always looks way worse than it is. When you make a bucket, 5 gallons of good water for your aquarium, you're basically making about a bathtub of wastewater. And you can use the wastewater. You can use it for laundry, you can use it to wash your car, you can water your foundation of your home, you can throw it on the lawn. I mean, it can be used for those things. Just don't use it for pets. Don't use it for human consumption. It's waste. But it's not a lot of water. And if you wash dishes with the sink running, if you wash your hands or you brush your teeth and the faucet's running, you'd be surprised how much water you're actually dumping down the drain. RO systems are trickling out water, and the waste line seems like a lot, but it's not a lot. And you can just, it's a 4-to-1 waste ratio. There are ways to set it up where it's 1-to-1 waste ratio, but if you do that, guess what? You're going to go through more membranes, and you're putting membranes in the landfill. But okay, let's say you don't do that. Let's say you don't waste that water, and you don't waste those membranes. The place you're buying the water from, they're wasting the water, and they're wasting the membranes. No matter what, this stuff isn't coming from nowhere. Someone's wasting it, it's going down a drain. So whether it's your drain or their drain, it makes no difference. You still need pure water. The convenience of doing it in your own home is what I recommend. And you know, that's my advice to you. But yeah, hook up an RO system, make water. Let's say you make 125 gallons of water a month for your system in top off and water changes. You're going to spend basically around, the first year, it's going to cost you about 7 cents a gallon to make your own water buying a brand new system. And then in subsequent years, even including replacing filters, you're going to be spending around 3 cents a gallon to make water versus paying 50 cents to $1 a gallon at the fish store. It really pays for itself. All right. Is 26.6 times per hour good turnover? It's an interesting number. Yeah, it's great. I'm hoping that's in the display tank and not going through the sump and back up to the tank. In the old days, people would get the biggest pump they can get their hands on and put it next to the sump and then shoot the water in the tank so they wouldn't have any pumps inside. It was a horrible, horrible method because everyone dealt with microbubbles, and they did everything they could to stop the microbubbles because it was driving them crazy. So I kept telling people, please stop doing that. Get smaller pumps, have water go through your sump slowly so your skimmer can work, so your carbon can work, so your filtration can actually filter and not slingshot the water through the sump. And get yourself a Vortec pump or a Gyre or a Jabo or whatever pumps you like in the display. Or set up a closed loop, which is where you drill a hole in one end of the tank and drill another hole in the other end of the tank, and you actually make the water go in a circle and air never gets in the pipe. It's literally closed circuit. Sort of like, what do you call it? Dialysis for blood. You know, they pump the blood out through a filter and back into you, and there's no air. It's just continuous. Same thing, closed loop on an aquarium. Wheat! That was what I was looking for 10 minutes ago. Thank you. A field of wheat moving back and forth is exactly what my toadstool leather looked like. It was beautiful. I finally caught up to you're only 30 minutes behind. All right, I'm scrolling. No, I'm not. I'm all caught up. Or this thing died. I don't know which. But this question here is, do you think 2 wave pumps provide enough flow for a 160 gallon, I assume, SPS reef? Maybe. Your 160 gallon reef could be 5 feet long, and a wave pump at each end could provide some good in-tank flow. You might need additional as the corals grow in. So maybe start off with 2, and then if you see that you need more, you can add more. All right. I caught up with everyone, and we're right at 2 hours. Why don't I end this right here? Thank you guys so much for watching the stream tonight, and for watching all my videos on my channel and subscribing and putting up with all the craziness that I share with you. I love doing YouTube, and I remember how much I drug my feet in the beginning not wanting to do it. It was just one of those things that I felt like I've already got it in writing. Why do I need to do videos about it? But at the same time, I've really enjoyed the interaction with so many people, and I look forward to doing this on a weekly basis. So I'm glad that tonight worked out well, that we all had a good stream. Wow, 2 hours. I'm done talking. I am super happy about the 5-year anniversary. I see one last question. I'm going to answer it really quick. How important is it to cure live rock? Very important. Please cure it. If you put uncured live rock in your tank, your livestock will not survive. So it needs to go through the entire curing process and be healthy and safe before you put livestock in, and then you'll have a nice, healthy system for your new acquisitions. Guys, have a great night. Enjoy your Sunday. It's Saturday still for 15 minutes because I'm in Texas. Water test Saturday. Test your water. You got 20 minutes. Or, whatever. Test your water this weekend. Post your results online. Share them, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or, however you want to do it, as a text to your best friend. Hashtag water testing. Hashtag post your results at melevsreef. And you will have a video coming out this week about Tammy's Reef. That is the big one. I hope you guys enjoy it. Have a great night, guys. Bye.